Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Welcome, Joshua, to Savvy Broadcasting. How are you today?
Doing good.
Well, we're so blessed to have Joshua Maddux here from Visual 95. He's been doing for over 11 years, helping businesses grow their marketing and branding. And you're going to help us get right with that today. A lot of businesses think they have it grooving and maybe not so much. But you've been helping businesses get on top of all that. Share with our audience a little bit of backstory about how you came to working and starting your business.
Yeah. So about 11 years ago, a good friend of mine and I were in college, who's now our CTO, and the web industry in a whole has a lot of negative connotation. People don't really understand what exactly is involved, and timelines seem to be this very fuzzy thing that someone says, hey, it should take a week, and then 6 months later it's not done. And so as I started to get into this, I quickly realized that the industry, basically if you stick to the budget you say you're going to do, stick to the timeline that you say, you quickly, easily come out, above sort of a lot of the competition, which is sad.
Yeah.
And so we sort of started there 11 years ago, and now taking that sort of one step further in the sense of, we look at, another web company who wants to sell something, they have a sort of a package that they want to just sell that sort of might fit the business need, but there's, 20 or 30% sort of bloat or extra elements that the business doesn't really need. And so it's, from a marketing side of things, talking specifically in the marketing realm, there's so many different marketing platforms, from Facebook to Google to AdRoll or Bing, or I could keep going. And it's not necessarily are you utilizing all of those, and we'll get into this a little later, but
Yeah.
it's really looking at what's providing the most return. And there is no silver bullet in marketing. There is no one fix.
Yeah.
Every business is unique. Every product is unique. Doesn't matter if you're a mechanic and there's a million mechanics. There's something unique about what you as a mechanic do, and the area you're located in, and all that type of stuff. And so, for us, that's sort of now what we've transitioned to, is really, we do a lot of website design and development. All of what we do is custom designed. We believe very strongly that, businesses, if 50 different businesses look exactly the same, they use the same cookie cutter template, then no one's going to be able to tell them apart.
Yes.
And so the design, the content, all needs to really reflect, who that business is, the personality of the business owner, and all of that. So.
Joshua, what I'm getting here, and it's interesting you mentioned this right off the bat, was how many marketing or branding companies, or maybe even digital companies, say, I'm going to build your website, or I'm going to do your marketing, and they don't stick to budget and they don't stick to their promises. Why is that such a problem? Because I myself hired someone 4 years ago to do my website. They came with disastrous results 6 months later, and I just fired them. Why does that happen so often?
Yeah, I think there's two elements to it. So there is definitely, a website itself takes a lot of time to really, if you do it right. If you wanted, you could hop on Wix or Squarespace and, copy and paste a logo in, drop in a page of content, hit go live. And in the course of about an hour, you have a website that's live. And that works. If you're a brand new business and you're just starting out, go to one of those platforms, put up a one page with an email capture and do that. Don't hire anybody. It's going to take you, a Saturday afternoon and do that. It gets you with a website, over a weekend, and you're done. But once you start to grow as a business and you need content and you need photography and you need all of this stuff, there's a lot of moving pieces. And so oftentimes business owners will look at it, and I think, getting back to the exact question, I think the sort of blame here is sort of twofold. One, it's on the web company. They should understand that there are challenges getting content from a small business owner, but then it's also a little bit on the small business owner for not necessarily, outlining, hey, I want to make sure you guys are doing everything. And so for us, one of the things that we do to help eliminate that miscommunication. So let's say you hired that web person and you thought they were writing all the content, but they thought you were providing it. There's obviously a miscommunication there. And on a website project that's sort of a very low price point, they don't really have the time to sit down and plan some of that. So what we did a few years ago was developed sort of a packet-based system. And so like when we provide a quote, we have a 7-page PDF that we have every business fill out. And it has like one of the pages is just a grid that's like, here's everything we need for the average, project. We need a logo. We need photography. We need headshots of your team. We need content of the pages. Who's providing that? And there's 2 columns, and they check off that they're providing it or that we're providing it. And up front, we know what those expectations are. And it's like, okay, cool. We don't have a photographer in house, but we know some local photographers that we can pull in, or we can help them find a photographer in their local area if they're out of state.
And then that way, everything's lined up, right? As far as price point goes for you and for them.
Yep. And that way, that's one of the biggest things from a budget perspective as well, is if we develop the website and we're done and they go, where's the content? And it's like, okay, well, cool. That's going to add, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 more, depending on how much content they need written. Then they need photography. Well, now we're going to, and they want to, headshots of all their team, and it's a construction company and they want 2 or 3 site visits. Well, now that's another $2,000, $3,000 in photography. And so now the content and the photography may actually be costing more than the website. And so their budget has over doubled. And so, and the timeline is going to almost over double as well. And so now this project has just gone crazy. And that's where I feel like for what we have seen historically, that's where a lot of those problems come in. And so, and in reality, if we're expecting a client of ours, a small business, to provide, a dozen pages of copy, they're a small business owner. Their day-to-day operation is sort of putting out the fires in their business and making sure that the daily operations are running and everything's happening. And so what we've developed is sort of this like 1-month program to help them do content. And it's like 3 meetings, video conference. And at the end of it, they've got, 5 or 8 pages of copy all done. And so it's really, for us, it's helping remove those barriers and, really just working with them to pull the expertise out of their mind. And that's what I think, going back to, what those issues might be, I think that's one of the other big things is a lot of small business owners, they've been doing this 20 years and it's second nature to them. There's things that everybody does in their business that it's second nature. But if you had someone brand new walk in the door, it would take you, 5 times the amount of time to explain it to them and show them how to do it than for you to just do it. And so we need those business owners to stop and to explain their business and really go in depth of why they're in business and why they do what they do and how do they do it. And it's really, we'll relate it to like a new hire. Think of us as a new hire. We're a new employee. Explain to us why you're in business, what you're doing, and all those processes, just like you would a new employee. You're not going to hire a new employee and tell them to sit in the corner and not do anything for 6 months.
Even though I've experienced that. But what's good about this, Joshua, is that by them doing that, a lot of them, might be good at what they're doing, but they've never had to explain what they're doing.
Yep.
And so this is another thing to bring to the forefront. You're thinking, well, why is this so hard for me to get this out there? Because you've never had to explain it. Maybe you're not even good at talking about it or putting it out there, but for you to put it out there in a very explanatory way where you can bring it to the forefront, because the whole point is to make the businesses shine. But
Yep.
I want to get to a very good point here that you mentioned at the start, which is, a lot of people are throwing their brand and their marketing all over the place, but they don't know where to get the best return on investment. How do they even begin to realize where their audience is hanging out? How do you do that?
Yeah. So it's really about just evaluating your customers. And that could be two ways. One is simply asking. If you ask every single customer, how did you find us? That's a huge piece of information to know. If they said, if 95% of your customers found you through a referral or through your Facebook page, but you're only spending $5 a month on a Facebook post boost and you're spending $500 a month on Google AdWords, your money's in the wrong spot. And so simply asking your customers, how would you find us, or how did you find us? Asking your customers things like, hey, if you were to look for us again, where would you go? How would you start that process? And those are key. Really knowing that. The other thing is diving in and understanding your customer from the aspect of things like, if you're a business and you don't know the average age, income, geolocation, education level, family status, marital status, if you don't know those things, are they a homeowner? Are they not? You need to know those. So we had a prospect who came to us. They just for sake of argument, they build high-end luxury pools.
Okay.
And so asking them, they've been in business 30 years. And we said, cool, who's your ideal client? Who's your ideal customer? And they're like, well, sort of anyone in Southern California. And it's like, okay, cool. So the guy who rents a room in an apartment, where's he putting his luxury pool? No, this person probably is typically married. They have kids who are in high school or college. They own a home. They probably have, if they're spending $200,000 on a pool, these are the like crazy nice ones with rock waterfalls and like super high end. Like you probably have a decent amount of extra income, if you're spending that type of money. So really understanding who those customers are. And that's, typically through a conversation. The other thing that we often tell companies to do is think of, those 3 or 4 customers that you have that you would drive, 3 hours in rush hour traffic and cancel your plans on a Saturday afternoon just to go help them. Like, think of who that customer is. That's your dream client. That's your dream customer. Who are they? Buy them a cup of coffee and really get to know them, and then find, use that person's model to find more like them.
I like that you say this, because there's so many business owners, even that I deal with today as a consultant. I'll walk in and they'll be the same way. They're like, what do I have to know their education level? And it's the whole package. And what I like here is you listened to the business he did and you deduced based on the facts that, okay, this is the type of pool it is. Here's how much it costs. Your ideal client probably looks like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the crazy part is the fact that they've been in business 30 years and they didn't comprehend that. And small business owners, if you know that, when you're starting out, if they would have known that 30 years ago, they would be 10 times the size. Wow. They would be financially so much better off now than where they were. And so it's crazy.
Joshua, what I'm getting from this, just yesterday, there's a business owner in Midtown that was reaching out to me, a chef. I went to a restaurant with a friend. He's trying to sell me his business. Like, we can do catering for you. We can da-da-da. But I would never need his services because I work on a one-on-one basis for the most part. Now, I might know people I can refer him to, but I was thinking while he kept trying to sell hard to me that you're barking up the wrong tree. And so what I'm gathering from you, if you don't know your ideal client, you're wasting a lot of time on people and barking up trees of clients who are just not your fit.
Yep, exactly. And that really comes down to the buzzword in marketing nowadays is niche down, find your niche. And that's exactly what this is.
Mhm.
Just the word, find your niche is sort of just this buzzword. And so
Mhm.
for that chef, if he's looking at catering to a room of 200 people, obviously catering for you with a lunch with a client is probably him wasting his time. He needs to
Mhm.
niche down in his marketing. And so a wedding might be perfect. A company who has 100, 200 employees catering a company lunch, that would be perfect. And
Yeah.
so he needs to look for businesses who have a facility, one office that employ more than 150 people on site.
Mm.
And so that's a perfect ideal client. Maybe they're going to do, a corporate Christmas party or something and he caters it. And so those are the things that it's like, he could market to 1 million people like you, who it's going to be, you plus one person for lunch,
Mhm.
but the conversion rate's going to be terrible.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so where if he markets to, the businesses who have 100, 150 people for lunch,
Yes.
his conversion rate is going to be super high. And
Exactly.
so we literally have landing pages. So we do Facebook advertising and Google AdWords and stuff for clients. And we have landing pages that
Mm.
are a cold ad. So these people have never heard about
Mm.
the client or something before. And we show them an ad on Facebook. They click on it and they're converting to a first name, email, and phone number capture at like 30%,
Wow.
which is, for those of you listening, that's about 10 times industry average.
That's awesome.
And so that's what happens when you niche down, because you're not showing ads to people who don't care. And
Mm.
so you're showing ads to people who do care, or people who have the money.
That's
You
another
know,
good point. You could be hitting a client that'd be, I'd love to work with you. I had nothing in my pocket. As
yep,
opposed to, okay, here are the people who are not only buyers in he, but buyers that have the cash flow right now to put it on the table.
yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. You look at companies like Porsche, they make high-end luxury cars. They are not going to market to someone who's paycheck to paycheck. They're going to market to someone who owns a home, who has a fairly substantial like 401k, who has money in the bank, and who could probably walk in and write a check out of their savings account and buy the car. And so that's who they want as a customer. And so it's really, sort of thinking the same thing.
Mhm. Absolutely. This has been a great talk, and we could go on for a long time. I know we could. This is fabulous information. You've given a lot of content to our listener today, but I want them to find out how they can find out more about you, work with you. How could they do that?
Yeah. So on social media, 95 Visual, or our website, 95visual.com. We also have a few different packets, and I was actually putting a list together. I'll make sure I make this link available. So 95visual.com/plan, PLAN. We have 4 different sort of resource guides that are there. One is our 10 easy steps to help build a website. It walks through some of the stuff that we've been talking about: knowing your ideal customer, knowing who you are as a business. We also have 3 of our other PDF packets that we have made available just publicly. We have one called Ideal Client Workbook. This is designed for a small business to help you find out and figure out who your ideal client is. We have another one that's a content planner. What's the key objective or the call to action of your about page, of your services page? If you don't have a key objective, then that person's going to figure out whatever they want the key objective to be. And that may be leaving Google searching and finding your competitor. And so if you don't give a customer a next step, they'll figure out their own.
Mm.
And then the other one, which is always a problem, is how to write a bio. And small business owners love what they do, but absolutely hate talking about themselves and hate talking about how they got started and that type of stuff. Now, I will say there are exceptions, but for the most part, we have found that small business owners are terrible at writing bios, myself included. I will say the last time we launched our website, our whole team had all their bios. Mine basically had a paragraph from our content strategist that basically said, Joshua didn't provide a bio, so below is the one we made for him. Um, So I fall victim to this as well. And so our BioWriter one is basically like a Mad Lib style element where they just sort of go in, fill in the blanks, and it gets you 90% of the way there. So.
Nice. That is fabulous. Well, I have to thank you again, Joshua, for coming to share your great brilliance today on Savvy Broadcasting. Thank you.
Hey, this is Joshua Maddux with 95 Visual. A lot of small business owners talk about their website and not having a budget for their website. If you treat your website and marketing like a pet rock, you're going to get the same in return. Have a website budget, have a marketing budget, and it'll actually provide you a return. Check out 95visual.com/plan for more information on how you can grow your business.
If you like this episode, please share. To hear more Savvy episodes and Savvy Biz tips, go to lifeunscriptedradio.com. To become a guest or participate in paid sponsorship, email us at Christina@lifeunscriptedradio.com.